Hey guys, I'm Kennedy, and this is the first episode of Kennedy's Test Kitchen. On Kennedy's Test Kitchen, we test out recipes that we haven't even seen before. They are completely new, and we say that we recommend them or we just don't because they're terrible or something went wrong. But today we are going to be making Martha Stewart blueberry scones. Now let's get to baking. So today we'll be needing 2 cups of flour. And it's funny because I actually put in 2 cups. Okay, next we're going to need 3 tablespoons of sugar. The recipe doesn't call for granulated sugar, but I usually like to use granulated. Next we're going to need a tablespoon of baking powder. And now 3/4 a teaspoon of salt. It's important to have the salt. And 6 tablespoons of butter. I already cut the stick, so it's not a half a cup, it's just 6 tablespoons. So cut off about 2 tablespoons. Next we're going to need the blueberries, of course, because they wouldn't be blueberry scones if they didn't have the blueberries. And almost to the end, we're going to need our lemon. The lemon is going to be for the grated zest that we're going to make, and I'll show you how to make that later in the video. Next, we are going to have our 1/3 cup of heavy whipping cream. That'll do something. And next, we're going to have 2 large eggs. It's important for the size because of how much it'll rise, and oh, that rhymes, but it's important for the size. And those are your ingredients. First, before you start mixing your ingredients, you're going to need to preheat your oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, so now that that's preheated, let's get started to baking or mixing the ingredients. Okay, so after we finish preheating the oven, we're going to need to prepare our baking pan. So I personally like to use butter, but other people like to just use parchment paper instead, or just use the plain pan by itself. It's always good to at least have something so that something on your baking pan so that the dough won't stick to the pan. Okay, let's move this aside and get started. Now we are going to put our dry ingredients in a big bowl like this. But we're not just going to throw it in there, we need to sift it. So we're going to take our 1 cup of all-purpose flour and just put that in there, and then take our other cup of all-purpose flour, just do that. Next, we are going to add in our 3 tablespoons of sugar, not the extra sugar, just 3 tablespoons. And our tablespoon of baking powder, and 3/4 a teaspoon of salt. Now, when we sift, it's important to sift so that there won't be clumps of dough or dry ingredients in our dough, or our dough won't be lumpy. Just do that. Okay. Whew, it's taking forever. Okay, we're almost done. I hate when this happens. Little balls. Sometimes if it forms little balls at the bottom, it's just easier to just use a fork or the spoon to push it through. I just like to use my fingers because I'm a kid and I'm messy. Okay, so next after that, we are going to set this bowl aside and get our smaller bowl. So next we need to zest the lemons. Now this is the part where I told you that I would show you how to zest. We're going to need a grater and just your lemon. The recipe only calls for 1 teaspoon, but it's okay if you have more. So what we're going to do, as my demonstration before, you're going to take your lemon and just move it across the sharp edge spot. But be careful not to grate your thumb because that would be very painful. And once you keep on moving, just see little strings coming down. It's okay if it's small because that is what it's supposed to look like. And usually it sticks like this. Again, with your finger or a spoon or something, just wipe it off. Smell of lemons. Reminds me of lemonade. And just keep on zesting until you get a teaspoon, which shouldn't be long if you're a fast person like me. This should be about a teaspoon. So if you're gonna make more than this, I suggest having about 2 lemons because this might not be a full teaspoon, but I have more lemons in case they aren't. Okay, let's set that aside. Take all this off and let's get our teaspoon. So now let's gather up all our lemons. It really smells like lemonade. And let's just, our lemon zest, and let's just, okay. Now we filled up the teaspoon and now we're ready to set it aside. Keep it in the teaspoon because that's pretty important. Okay, now we're going to get our blueberries. Now let's measure a cup of blueberries so that a cup and a half, not actually a cup, but a cup and a half. So let's just take, I like to use measuring cups a lot, but mine only goes to a cup and a half. So if you get like a regular container, a cup and a half blueberries for it, it'll fill up the whole entire thing. Now let's put that aside also. So now we're gonna go back to our big bowl. Because for our big bowl, we're going to need to cut this into pea size. Now, I don't really have a pea demonstration, but I can visualize it in my head and what it would look like. So this is, now let's take our butter and then we're just gonna cut this into it. So I'm just gonna put this on the counter. And it should be like this small. And then you're just going to cut it up until they're all in there. Okay. Now this might take a while, and remember, baking needs patience. Also, do remember that your butter has to be cold. It can't be warm, it has to be cold. Okay, this might take a while.
You can stop it.
Okay, so now we are going to stir in our blueberries. Ooh. And our teaspoon of zest still in the teaspoon. You might need to use your fingers because teaspoon and lemons has juice and that will stick together. Now, the recipe says with a fork, which is weird because I just like to use a wooden spoon. So let's just stir that in. Looks very interesting. Okay. I can smell some lemon and blueberries. Great. Now this looks pretty stirred in, but let's get the dry ingredients at the top so that it moves. And let's get these blueberries spread out. Okay, so after you're finished stirring in your dry ingredients, you're gonna need to use this next also for the next step. So after you're done doing that, you're just gonna set this aside again and take your measuring cup. It's okay if the blueberries are in it because it's all gonna go in the same bowl anyway. So you're gonna take your 2 large eggs, and they say to be lightly beaten, so let's just beat this before we actually put the heavy whipping cream in here. Okay, so now, okay, let's beat this with a fork, but lightly. So when I think lightly, I just think a little bit, just mixed in, but a little bit. Next, we're gonna take our heavy whipping cream, just pour that in. And then they say with the fork, not a whisk, we're gonna whisk this together, which is weird because when you think of whisking things, you think whisk. So, but I just had to think and it doesn't tell you what what it's supposed to look like, but I just think it shouldn't be bubbly. Don't you know how the eggs, sometimes when you over whisk it or beat it, it'll get a little bubbly and stuff? Well, I just think it shouldn't be like that. I just think back to in the morning when I make eggs that it shouldn't be all that. And it might feel thick, but it is okay because it's eggs and heavy whipping cream. Heavy whipping cream makes it a little thicker, and eggs are pretty thick itself. Okay, so now this looks really great mixed together because the color got lighter. Let's mix this in a little more. That looks great. Okay, so next we're going to put we're going to make a well in the dry ingredients. And the reason, if you don't see it, you make a well by moving out all the dry ingredients to the side. It's okay if it's at the bottom of the bowl because this bowl is way too big for all the stuff I make usually, but it's okay. And your well should sort of look like this. Oh, well, if you guys see it. And next we're going to add in our little egg mixture and put that in the middle of our well. Now they say to gently or lightly stir our stuff together, so it's not going to be like a hard stirring thing, just lightly. So like this, it's going to lightly stir it in, so to where soon it should form like a dough. So as you stir, if the dough is not forming, just stir more until it gets to that dough point. Okay, so I made the dough, but I had to add more heavy whipping cream because it wasn't really forming. So, and I added about 1/4 cup of heavy whipping cream. It wasn't a lot more, and I had to lose the fork because my hand. If you see my hands, I had to use my hands more, and the light stirring didn't really work. So this is what it's sort of supposed to look like. It's okay if it sticks to your hands, because we have to do more messiness anyway, because we have to knead this. Okay, knead this anyway. Okay, now we're going to have a clean workspace So it's better to clean it before you get started anyway. So we're just going to pour a little bit of flour. You probably need extra flour for your workspace, and you need like a good coat of flour on there so that your dough won't stick to your workspace when you just knead it. Okay. Boop. Okay. This should be too much. Okay, and it's good to have a little on your hands too, because when you start mixing, you don't want any to stick to your hands. You want it to just make the scones. We're gonna also need like a knife or a butter knife or something for when you cut the shape out. So this is when you're gonna need to get your butter knife. Whew. Okay. So as you can see, parts of it are still like just a little crumbly, but it's okay because it'll stick to it. Uh-oh. Okay, so let's just put that right there. And on the recipe for the instructions, it says just to knead it until it just gets a certain, to where you can pat it down into a 6-inch square. So I'm just going to do that right now. So as you see, it's starting to form more, and about one blueberry just smashed on me while I was kneading, but it is okay because we have all these other delicious blueberries that you will be able to taste when you bake. So don't worry if a couple of them get smushed and colors start to come out. It's okay. Okay, so now I have my dough, but I want to not make it very powdery, so let me just move this, oopsie, and move this out of the way. So now I have space to pat it out. Make sure there's still flour, but not too much flour to where it gets all very disgusting, over floured basically. And then we're just going to pat this into a 6-inch square, which is of course 6 inches on every side, and they want it to be like this thick, which is like a 1 inch and a fourth, 1 1/4 of an inch thick. I think that's how you say it. Ooh, I just squirted there. And then after we make a 6-inch square, they just said to pat it. You don't really need to do a lot, but I'm having to do just a little bit. And I just can't just pat it because it's not working to pat. So right now some stuff has not been working while I've been baking these scones, but it's starting to come out pretty well. Awesome. And let's just, this seems like a 6-inch thing, square, I meant. Let's see. So I said it's about this thick, so I need to pat it down a little more on this side. And it's okay if it's not actually a 6-inch thick. A 6-inch, like the look of it, it's because it will. Also, for the batter, I forgot this. You do have to smush down the butter just a little bit to make it stick just a little more, because the egg and the heavy whipping cream don't do all the work. The butter helps too. Okay, now this is starting to look like a square, if I do say so myself. Okay. Great. Now I think it's ready for the knife. The butter knife. Okay. So now we're going to take a knife. I prefer a butter knife because, again, I'm a kid. And we're just going to cut this into 4 3-inch squares. So this is the ones I think. Just cut it basically in half. You might cut some blueberries. Again, it's okay. Because that's a little harm in killing some blueberries. Okay. So now this is about 1/4 each. And now we're just going to separate this into 4s. And then we're going to cut it in half again to where it makes about like 1.5 inches. So then it makes this pretty square like this. It'll make about 8 because simple math, and there are 8 if you cut these in half. Oops. And this should turn out almost like this. I do prefer a butter knife for this because it seems very easy and you don't need a lot. So now we made 8, and that is exactly what the recipe calls for. And let's check if these things are 1 1/4 of an inch thick, and they are. So now let's move these to the baking pan. Okay, so now earlier I think I called them squares, but they're triangles. You know, life of a kid. It's just hard sometimes to get a lot of stuff on your mind. Okay, so now you're just gonna set these on your baking your baking sheet, and let me just bring it forward. It's okay, doesn't really matter the placement, just matters if they taste good. So, but you want to give them just a little bit of space, and you can like shape it how you want to shape it, but on the recipe it says squares. And sometimes you might think, oh, they're round, or they're round, but I meant triangles. Okay, so now what you want to do is take my awesome brush and just dip it in more heavy whipping cream. Again, you might want to have more heavy whipping cream on hand. Also, sorry I didn't mention that in the beginning, but you will need it. Then you're just going to lightly brush it on to your triangles. Got it this time? Scones. Okay. It's starting to look like scones already before they're even got in the oven. I am excited. Okay, so now after that, remember when they said plus more for the tops of the scones? I got more. Okay, so I got way more, but you're just gonna use your hands and just sprinkle the granulated sugar at the top. And it's okay if you're messy with it, because that's a part of baking, being messy. Dun, dun, dun. And when it comes to sprinkling stuff, I'm always messy. Did I put some on that? I think I did not. Uh-oh, too much. Spread that out. Let's put some right here on the top of that. Okay, now we are done preparing it, making these beautiful for the oven. Now let's put them in the oven. So now we're going to put our scones in a preheated oven, but also make sure your rack is in the middle of your oven so that your scones can bake evenly and they can taste awesome and they won't taste undercooked or overcooked. Just right. Okay, so take that out and let's put these in. I'm gonna mix up anything. But once you put in your scones, you can't forget to put the timer on. It's in there. Undercook, overcook, same thing. Almost. And for 20 to 22 minutes. Almost there. Okay. And then just have fun while you're waiting, or just clean up. Commercial time.
Hey everybody, I'm Myron. I'm the person who works behind the camera and Kennedy's awesome older brother, just in case you didn't know. And if you liked what you saw today, you know, the pastries and all, smash that like button. And if you liked it even more, smash that subscribe button so you can get even more awesome videos. And if you liked Kennedy even more than that, go on her website, purplepastries.com, so that you can get stuff ordered to you if you live in the metro Atlanta area. She ranges stuff from, like, you know, cookies, cupcakes, and even more things like cheesecake and cakes. You know, she made a 13,000 calorie cheesecake once, true story. And if you really, really want that, smash that subscribe button and go to her website, purplepastries.com.
Don't forget about this awesome apron.
The awesome apron and the awesome shirts.
With this beautiful shirt.
Prices now pending. And if you're really interested, continue to subscribe for more videos. Be there or be square.
Okay, these look awesome. Let me just show you how awesome they look. These look so professional, you can't even tell that a kid did it. Tastes really good. I totally recommend this recipe.